My wife, Alicia, has always had a bit of an absent-minded quality about her. Our meeting stemmed from an incident where Alicia dropped her large makeup pouch in a university lecture hall and didn't even realize it. I picked it up, and that's how I approached her for the first time. When Alicia, who is 2 years younger than me, was job hunting 2 years after I did, she would say with a puzzled look, "They dropped me because I don't seem to have a clear vision for my future."
Do you think I lack vision?
Well, you do seem a bit absent-minded sometimes. Alicia didn't seem to be too concerned about it, responding with a nonchalant "I see."
But that's just how I am. It can't be helped. I'm sure it'll sort itself out eventually.
I remember her smiling lightly at the thought. The economy has been in a slump since the bubble burst. Due to that environment, I felt like I was being crushed by anxiety while job hunting until I received an offer. So, it was strange and refreshing to see Alicia, who was living in that same environment, be so nonchalant. I remember being re-smitten with her, thinking, what a cool-headed woman she is. Once a year passed after Alicia, who was considerably late in finding a job compared to her classmates, began working. We got married. We didn't have a wedding ceremony at the time because we didn't have the money. I apologized to Alicia, saying, "You must have wanted to wear a wedding dress, didn't you?" To which she replied with a smile, "Well, I would have wanted to wear one if I could, but if I can't, it's not a big deal." Several years later, both Alicia and I worked earnestly, and Alicia quit her job when she became pregnant at the age of 31. Our daughter, Mia, was born, and our lengthy time as a couple became a life as a family of 3. By the time Mia turned 6, I had been promoted and our life had become more comfortable. I gathered up the courage and suggested to Alicia, "Hey, how about we have that wedding ceremony we couldn't have back then? I know it's late, but what do you think?"
A wedding ceremony, now at my age, in a wedding dress.
She seemed surprised, but there was no doubt that she was pleased. "Don't worry, you're still beautiful."
Really? Then maybe I will.
Alicia looked as beautiful as I thought she would in her bridal gown. We pledged our love once again in front of our parents, friends, and colleagues, and I was relieved that I was finally able to give Alicia the opportunity to wear a wedding dress. And 6 months later,
Tom, Mia got accepted.
our daughter, Mia, passed the entrance exam for a private elementary school. "Really, good job, Mia, you're amazing." As I tousled her hair, Mia let out a joyful squeal and looked up at me with a proud smile. "My lovely Mia, it was my idea to suggest private school for Mia. I wanted her to receive good education, work at a good company, marry a good man. I don't want to think about that just yet, but I wanted her to lead a good life. Paying the tuition fee for the private school, and having spent quite a bit on the previous wedding ceremony, my savings were starting to look a little thin. But I thought things would work out somehow. As time went by, I was optimistic that we would once again have financial leeway. My life was going smoothly. My career was progressing. I had a loving wife and child waiting for me at home. I was able to send my daughter to a private elementary school. It was about a month after my daughter started elementary school when a cloud started to cast over those days. Rumors of bankruptcy.
Yeah, you know our new CEO who took office at the end of last year, right? Apparently, he had some trouble with an executive at a client company, and they're likely to terminate the contract.
The client is The name that came out of my colleague's mouth was that of a major company in the industry, which our company largely depends on for sales. But we've always had a good relationship with them. A sudden termination of the contract, is that even possible?
Actually, it's not so sudden. Our current CEO, since that laid-back second-generation president took over, our way of doing things has changed quite a bit, hasn't it? It seems that's caused some issues with the client. Well, I hope it's just a rumor about the bankruptcy. You've just been promoted, and your child entered a private school, right?
Yes.
My older brother had his kid in private school, and he said it's been tough. If the company goes under at a time like this, it's going to get really difficult.
The words of my colleague stuck to my chest, turning into anxiety. That night, I got a phone call on my cell from my mother back home. She spoke in a somber tone, saying something unexpected.
Your dad had a stroke.
What?
He's stable now, but he'll need to be in the hospital for a while. He's still unconscious. And you know we're living on Social Security, right? We can't afford the hospital bills. Would you mind covering your dad's hospital cost?
I understand. Reluctantly, I nodded. My mother continued to speak apologetically. She explained that if my father were to have any lingering effects, we may also need to consider the costs of long-term care. Dumbfounded, I hung up the phone and headed straight to the bank. Once I transferred the money for my father's hospital bills, my account was drained. I had just finished paying my daughter's tuition for the semester. Looking at my pitiful account balance, I recalled a conversation with a colleague. Please don't let our company go bankrupt. Unfortunately, my wish did not come true. 2 weeks later, as I arrived at work, I saw a crowd gathered outside the office. When I found the colleague who had shared the rumor, I asked him, "What's going on? Why isn't anyone going inside?" To which he replied, "We're out of business." What?
The company, it says so on that paper.
The colleague pointed to an A4 size white paper taped to the locked office door. On closer inspection, the notice indeed announced the company's bankruptcy, complete with the name of the lawyer handling the case. I stood there in shock. Can this really be happening? So, what do we do now?
Well, I guess we have to negotiate with this lawyer and look for a new job, right?
I remembered the hopeless bank balance I saw 2 weeks ago. The expensive wedding, my daughter Maya's private school tuition, the unknown cost of my parents' medical and care expenses. Everything was becoming dark. How am I going to make ends meet from now on? As I stumbled home with my head full of worries, Alicia asked, "What's wrong?" When she saw me, "Well, the company went bankrupt."
What? Today?
Yeah. I told her about the scene I saw at the office. Upon hearing this, Alicia looked surprised for a moment, but she quickly returned her gaze to the variety show she was watching while folding laundry, and chuckled at the celebrity's comments. Her casual demeanor led me to remark, Hey, do you understand the gravity of the situation? This isn't a laughing matter."
But what can we do? Nothing we say can bring the company back, right?
She said it in such a carefree manner. Well, that's true, but...
So there's no use worrying about it. Besides, you have the day off today, right? Why not take it easy for a bit? You've seemed pretty worn out lately. You must be tired, aren't you?
Well...
Oh, but would you mind coming shopping with me this afternoon? I've been wanting to go to that big supermarket in the next town. But it's far from the station, isn't it? I thought it would be convenient if we could drive there.
Watching my wife smile cheerfully, I felt the tension drain away. Alicia was right. There's nothing I can do at this moment. Maybe I should take a break. I have been feeling tired lately.
Why don't you take off your suit and put down your bag?
Yeah. Alicia took my bag, which I had been clutching since I got home, and helped me take off my jacket.
Don't be so down. It's not your fault. Let's think of today's incident as if a huge storm came yesterday and blew the company away. Okay.
What kind of analogy is that? Looking up at me with a chuckle, Alicia said, "But it's true, isn't it?" "Well, maybe you're right," I replied with a laugh, deciding to change out of my suit for now. That day, Alicia and I had lunch together for the first time in a while, drove to the big supermarket in the next town for some shopping in the afternoon, and welcomed our daughter Mia back from school together. However, we couldn't continue this lifestyle every day. The next day, negotiations with the lawyer appointed by the bankrupt company began. The back and forth had continued for over a month, yet the company's management never made an appearance during that time. As per my attorney, it seemed unlikely that they could even pay my unpaid salary. Though I wasn't keen on it, I had no choice but to contact my mother back at home and explain the situation. My father, who collapsed with a stroke shortly before the company went bankrupt, regained consciousness but was still dealing with the after effects. I had heard that it would be tough for just my mom to take care of my discharged father, and that we would need to hire a caregiver. Given the current circumstances, when I told my mom that I couldn't contribute financially, she murmured in a worried voice, "Is that so?" Eventually, my mom said she would dip into her savings for a while to cover the care costs, leaving me filled with guilt. I know my parents don't have much in savings. I need to do something before their savings run out. Alongside the discussions with my attorney, I was visiting the employment agency and job hunting, but that too wasn't going well. To begin with, there were hardly any job postings with conditions similar to my previous job. No matter how much I drag my feet, the days continue to pass. Household expenses need to be paid, my pensioner parents' living costs are being pressured, and I even need to pay my daughter Maya's second semester elementary school tuition by the summer. The sun grew hotter every day, and summer was approaching in full force. I need to start preparing for Maya's second semester tuition soon. But can I afford to pay a lump sum right now? After much anguish, I finally decided to bring up this idea with Alicia. "Hey, what do you think about moving Mia to a public elementary school from the second semester?"
Huh? What are you talking about? You were the one who was so keen on sending Mia to a private school.
But given the current situation, Alicia, without showing a gloomy face despite the situation, brightly says, "Mia made a new friend recently."
It would be so sad to have her transfer when she's finally enjoying school, don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. Mia has her own life. It's my job to protect that. That night, I couldn't fall asleep as I pondered what I should do. As a result, I overslept the next day and only woke up after 10 in the morning.
Good morning.
Alicia, without any sarcastic comments towards the unemployed me who woke up late, asks me with her usual smile, "Good morning. Do you want fried eggs or scrambled eggs?" I replied, "Fried eggs, I guess," with feelings of gratitude and shame. After breakfast, I headed to the employment agency again. But yet again, there were no promising job postings. I was worn out, and dark thoughts filled my mind as I began to lose confidence as the family's breadwinner. What if I can't find a job at all? Even if I do find one, it would likely have a lower salary and tougher work conditions. I might end up damaging my physical and mental health, causing more hardship for my family. In the end, I might not even have the means to let my daughter continue attending a private elementary school. And then, I even started thinking in this way. Perhaps Alicia would be better off divorcing such a pathetic man and finding a better one. Alicia is kind and beautiful. She could easily find a much better man than me. Once I started thinking along these lines, I couldn't stop myself. Over the next few days, I would walk to and from the local government office after my trips to the employment agency, and after making a hard decision, I finally brought home a divorce paper. I never thought I'd see the day where I would hold a divorce paper. I had never even considered this. Alicia and I had thought about getting married since our college days. We were laughed at for being eager, and since we married earlier than most, we were told, "Don't you want to enjoy your youth a bit more?" However, I never once regretted marrying Alicia. I love her, even now. And of course, I love our daughter Mia too. But that's why I wanted them to be happy. If there's no need for me in their happiness, then I put the divorce paper into my bag and returned home with a somber face. Then, while having dinner, pondering when to bring up the divorce, without saying anything, I finished my meal, took a bath. After Mia went to bed, "I'm sorry, Alicia. Will you divorce me?" I finally said.
What? What did you say?
I said, "Will you divorce me? I'm sorry for being such a pathetic guy. You're not getting enough for living expenses lately, are you? I've been thinking. You're kind and beautiful. Maybe you should leave me and find a better person. I can't even afford to feed us right now, let alone pay for Maya's private schooling. I can't make you two happy like this. That's why we should divorce. It's for the best." With that, I placed the divorce papers in front of Alicia. Alicia stared at them with a blank expression for a moment, then burst into laughter. "What are you talking about?"
What? Divorce? Lure actually brought divorce papers? Stop joking around. How did we get here?
"Because I can't provide for us anymore."
So just because your company went under, we should divorce. I have no intention of divorcing you or marrying anyone else, no matter what happens.
In contrast to her usual laid-back demeanor, she said it with such firmness that it brought tears to my eyes. "But I don't know what to do anymore. I can't pay for Maya's tuition or my father's nursing home fees." Alicia nonchalantly said, "Were you feeling this desperate? You should have told me sooner."
Honey, there's something I want you to see.
She took a bank book out of the drawer and handed it to me. It was a brand new bank book. I accepted it, confused, and opened it. Then, what is this? A large, 5-digit number was written in the balance column of the bank book. Where did this money come from?
I just opened a new account for Maya's school fees. They'll be deducted from this account starting next semester, so you don't have to worry.
Don't have to worry. Why is there so much money? Our savings were almost gone, right?
How? Actually, I've been wanting to tell you this.
Alicia said, looking embarrassed. I've been running a cooking blog. A cooking blog?
Yes, here it is.
Alicia slowly opened her laptop and showed me the screen. A cozy-looking blog was displayed, and there were familiar dishes lined up on the edge of the display.
I started it casually, but it became unexpectedly popular, and now I earn a substantial amount through affiliate marketing.
Affiliate marketing. That's sad revenue, right?
Yes, exactly. You put ads on your blog, and you earn money. If a lot of people visit the blog, it can add up, That's how this happened.
She pointed at the new bank book.
Also, I was too shy to mention this earlier, but I've actually published a few books as well.
Books?
Yes.
Alicia nodded shyly. Alicia, published books.
You know, I've always felt that something wasn't quite right with everything I did. Studying in school, working. I never felt passionate about anything. But when I started the blog, it was fun. I thought I could work hard at it, that I could be serious about it.
So, the books.
Yes.
So, you're a blogger, Alicia?
Yes, that's right.
I was dumbfounded, staring at my wife. Is that so? That's amazing. I had no idea you were doing all this from home. While scrolling through the blog admiringly, Alicia said, "Don't read it now. It's embarrassing." I didn't open the articles because she said so, but every post had lots of comments. Apparently, the blog was really popular. Alicia chuckled.
So don't worry about money. I know your parents are in a tough situation, but now that I have my income, I think we can manage. You just relax and take your time finding a job. It'll all work out eventually. So, let's forget about this.
Alicia crumpled up the divorce papers and threw them in the trash.
Without you, there's no happiness for me or for Mia.
Hearing those words, I finally came back to my senses. That's right. If I think about it rationally, it's absurd to talk about divorce at a time like this. I must have been out of my mind. I managed to choke out an apology. The divorce. I was being so stupid. I must have lost my mind.
Yes, I'm glad you said that.
Alicia gave a relieved smile, then immediately struck a triumphant pose. From now on, don't make any rash decisions, just take your time and go with the flow.
It's okay, don't rush. You'll definitely find a job that you feel confident about. After all, I didn't find blogging until this age, so there's no need to worry.
Her words reminded me of something from a long time ago. Back when Alicia was struggling to get a job offer during our college days. During the times of uncertainty and looming recession, her carefree laughter and the words, "It'll all work out in time, I'm sure," made me feel reassured. More than I expected. Thanks, Alicia. With a feeling of being saved by my unchanging wife, I thanked Alicia, to which she responded with a cheery voice. Yep, enough of the serious talk.
Let's get to bed already. Oh no.
Suddenly, Alicia exclaimed in surprise. What's wrong?
I forgot. Mia was supposed to bring a milk carton to school tomorrow.
Upon opening the fridge, Alicia grabbed the milk carton that was still more than half full and started to pour it generously into her and my cups.
We have to drink it tonight. Wash it and let it dry.
Oh, okay. Alicia and I started chugging the milk, and we both let out a sigh at the same time as we finished drinking. Seeing Alicia with a white milk mustache, I couldn't help but chuckle. That night, I was able to sleep soundly after a long time. From the next day, I was able to look for a new job with a more relaxed approach. Things will work out. Feeling this way lightened my face, even to the point where the job center employee asked me something good happened. And 2 weeks later, I finally came across a job posting that felt right. After submitting my application, both the document screening and interview processes went smoothly. And within a week of applying, I secured a new job at that company. Starting the job, I felt a bit tired in the unfamiliar workplace at first, but with Alicia's support, I was able to get back on track quickly. And as for Alicia, nothing much had changed. Sometimes I found her to be a bit vague, other times she seemed very resolute. She didn't seem to work much at home either. I thought that maybe I was attracted to this kind of flexible strength in Alicia.
Have a good day, dear.
Have a good day, Daddy.
My wife and our daughter, dressed in her private school uniform, saw me off at the front door. I'm off. Make sure you're not late for school, Mia.
Okay.
After waving back at Mia, I headed off to work. To protect this happy scene, I better do my best.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, what's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.